Hello and welcome to a new video. Today is Monday the 10th of October 2016. It is 1515 hours Central European time. There is once more a little ruckus on the construction site, so I apologize for any ruckus in the background you might hear. Today's video is just a few observations and a couple of thoughts and things I wanted to mention in no particular order really. So I'm just going to tackle them as I wrote them down here. As I said, no particular order or sequence. The first thing here is a little hard to explain. I have in the past explained elaborately, even in the by the way World document and in all the documentations prior, and I have done my technical explanations when they were still had audio surveillance here way back in the hot face. It has to do, indirectly, has to do with the scenario app. I realized that whether, and here it's once more a question of just how bloody, utterly incompetent are fakes money out there, or at least the broad majority of them, and how much would they go for desperate measures and things like that. Because I realized that there might be some people out there who actually do this on purpose, and if not, it happens anyhow, maybe unbeknownst to even the Fax Money people, namely a funny sort of new take on augmented reality. Under inverted comma, why? Because what they very likely are doing out there, and or what happens anyhow just because people are running in their scenario apps, and reality feeds into the scenario app. So if you don't actually give them particular scenarios, but if you just let their scenario apps run along, what they do is they work with reality. But what happens is reality is fed into the scenario app. And at that point, all of the lies that they create, right? All of their stupid 9/11 and all of this shit, the really severe shit. 9/11 was harmless by comparison to the shit they've been pulling over decades. But all of this shit is actually augmented insofar as that the scenario app actually cements that in. Okay? It is lies. It is reality. Reality is lies because all of their false flag actions and all of their ridiculous mumbo-jumbo actions they pull and whatnot. But what I'm trying to point out here is that the scenario app running in people's heads actually subjects reality, bracket, which is nothing but lies, bracket, to the inescapable nature and forced upon coercedness of the scenario app. Okay? So they're actually, and here once more, I am not all that sure if people actually do this deliberately and or if people actually are aware of it. Some Fax Mundi might have stumbled across the fact that something like that is going on and might have welcomed it. Some are completely clueless, absolutely, I guarantee you, a lot of Fax Mundi people out there are completely clueless to this. But the point is, all of these lies, all of that shit, all of that, and the thing really explodes in their faces because you have opinionated media, which you have in several flavors. And your fucking scenario app cannot tell the bloody difference. And your differently contradicting opinionated media are both coerced onto the people in their scenario app, augmented so that they can't sort it out themselves anymore by the scenario app just running along. Okay? Those lies and these charades that are going on out there in reality, I'm not talking about any delusional content, I'm not talking about fucking Martians and Jesus and whatnot, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual ongoings in the world, which are all manipulated and farce and lies and whatnot, but those are augmented, so to speak, technically, by the scenario apps that people are running in their heads. Right? The scenario app is always on, and reality can be held, but be filtered into it. And thus the scenario app actually works with the reality, but makes reality inescapable, so to speak, namely in that sense, and no, that's not a good thing, in that sense that it's a lot of bullshit. That's what I'm trying to say, and it's once more utter incompetence, idiocy beyond description on behalf of Fax Mundi people. So I want to point out, it says here, Augmented Reality, Neudeutung des Begriffs, die erlogene Realität wird zusätzlich noch in das Szenario abgebildet, sie unentrinnbar zu machen, okay? So, some people, I mean, how do they believe all of these ridiculous, grotesque lies and all this shit like 9/11? Because they have their truth, which for a change is just simple lies in reality coming out of their mouths rather than anything coerced through the mind-fucking approach, so to speak, is nonetheless fed into people's scenario app and thus becomes augmented in a horrendous negative way and inescapable, okay? I want to point that out. What I want to point out here is that the scenario app is not just there for military simulations, which is its original background, and it's not just there to give people completely delusional shit about Martians and rebirth and soul migration and aliens and whatnot, but actually is also utilized to technically augment the lied up reality that Facsimony has been pulling the longest time. Okay? And don't you underestimate the harumph of this. Okay? I do insist that sane people can snap out of this. This, I take no offense over. It's military simulation. I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, it's inhuman technologies, but there's nothing inhuman about running military simulation as such. This can be, I am living proof of that, gotten out of if you are sane, if you are of sanity, and not one of the religious lurchers and other idiots. But this shit, if people don't know about this shit, even amongst the willing executioners, see, because there is a chance where people might say, no, I asked I'm not sure which accent to get now, because this might hold true for a lot of the willing executioners out there. You know, basically they say, no, I can verify that no one shoved delusional content into my scenario app. They don't have to, because your scenario app is on and running, and all of the lies that they pull out there, all of the charades, all of the farces, all of Boston bombings, and all of the crap is fed into your scenario app and treated in a way that reality should not be treated as. It is augmented. Namely, it is basically delusionalized, although it is reality. On a technical level, which is bizarre. I mean, it's not all that hard to wrap your head around it once you actually think it through a little while, but it is, you know, it took me a long time to figure that's actually going on out there. And that explains a lot of things about a lot of people's reaction to the ongoings in the world, okay? So I wanted to explain that. Next thing here, I found a new word. Actually, it's an old word, really. It's a German word. The word is Menschheitslästerung. The word Lästerung as such exists in the German language, which in the English language it does not, oddly enough. In the English language, best to my knowledge, the word only exists in a combination of God, namely Gotteslästerung, which is sacrilege. Right? There is a word in English language, namely sacrilege, which is Lästerung against God. But the word Lästerung as such exists in the German language even without the context of God along. And you can, just as you in German combine it with God to result in sacrilege, you can combine it with any other things, such as Menschheit, Menschheitslästerung. Menschheitslästerung is a new word for, and here I'm lost for a word in English for a change, for a new Tatbestand. I mean, it's actually not a new Tatbestand because it's what some parts of Facsimony have been doing for the longest time. But it is a word that will find its way into the laws laws, let's call it that, of Freiland. Menschheitslästerung, Tatbestand. Tatbestand, English is such a motarded language. It says here, facts, elements of a crime, elements of an offense, corpus delicti, which is grotesque, elements of an offense, facts of the case, matter of fact, and matters of fact. English sucks ass, okay? Please learn another language, you English-speaking people. In German as well, Tatbestand, none of these translations actually do it any justice, and Menschheitslästerung has become a new Tatbestand in the laws of Freiland. And all things religion are Menschheitslästerung. And punishment for that will be, you could probably imagine. So, that one was an easy one. I just wanted to bring forth the word Menschheitslistung. Here is something funny. I did mention a few videos back the flag of the Isle of Man that they had on the website of the football club of mine, just for my personal ridicule. And it occurred to me, I always say England, Scotland, Wales when I talk about Albion. And the Isle of Man previously technically was not belonging to either. Now I do want to point out that I have always in my maps shown how the Isle of Man became part of New Scotland. I have explained that England loses some of its size, some of these territories go to Scotland in the north, and the southwest of England goes to New Wales, and then you have England. And I've always explained that, and you always had a little semicircle that included the Isle of Man to be part of New Scotland. So when I say all of Albion, that does include the Isle of Man, as it does the other Hebrides and whatnot, things that were traditionally Scottish, but even the Isle of Man is included. I always make that clear, okay? I don't have to, so you won't get away with saying, yeah, but the Isle of Man is not Scotland, England. Well, yes, it bloody is, it is Scotland. The Isle of Man now belongs, ever since I restructured it, belongs to New Scotland. End of story. So, there, go fuck your Isle of Man. Just in case you're going for the word quibbling about the meaning, the literal meaning of sentences of mine, or if you go splitting hairs about the meaning or whatnot, just go fuck yourself, okay? The Isle of Man has always been, ever since and that has been quite a while now, go look up the old verloopingsmails. It is part of Scotland, and hence it is part of Albion. Three more things. 3 weeks ago or something, I did a little video on just reporting how I got attacked by limbo-dwelling bitch queens on Albion. This is interesting. It occurred to me yesterday or the day before yesterday. I actually figured a couple of things about this. See, I'm just gonna read what I wrote down here in German first. Let me just get this window to the front. There. Sind die Limbo-Dwelling Bitch Queens unheilbare Bitch Queens, werden diese Männern ins Gehirn geschaltet, um diese sich ungefähr wie Anti-Life Equation beabsichtigte männliche Bitch Queens verhalten zu lassen, quasi als Versuch des Remote Bitchens. What does that mean? The interesting thing is, I've explained a long time ago how the bitch queens arose out of the bitch queen phenomenon, the bitch queen condition. Actually, the bitch queen condition depends on what you call bitch queens from which point forth. My definition of bitch queen really is when what the anti-life equation envisioned them to be got hijacked by themselves and they muted it all into their insanity that they are today. Still, the interesting thing was, it occurred to me in retrospect that those limbo-dwelling bitch queens were actually ALE conform bitch queens, right? Which actually were not of that insane bitch queen Khan and ilk variety bitch queens, you know, the bitch queens on a vengeance or something. It was like the anti-life equation that's supposed for them to be. So those bitch queens that were attached to my devices here, those must have been in their limbos for a whole long fucking time. That was the first realization. Those must have been in limbos for literally decades. No shit. I don't know who these women are, but they are lying in these limbos for decades now. I want to point this out. But the more interesting thing is, on the news and what's going on in the news, again and again I realize how lately men actually behave like bitch queens. Okay? Men behave like bitch queens, and not like the insane bitch queens, but like what the bitch queen phenomenon should have been according to the anti-life equation. Now, which brings me to wonder if either the all crazy insane Khan-like bitch queens, that is Jeanette Khan of former DC Comics fame and other stuff, for the people who don't know who I'm talking about, and she has a lot of colleagues and, you know, like people and blah, right? If those all new and improved bitch queens, for ridiculing purposes, deliberately keep some old school bitch queens in limbos to connect them into man's brains, force connect them, and feed that ALE, anti-life equation conform bitch queenery in some way of remote working. I've explained all of the remoting approaches because they can't give you the actual apps anymore and so on and so forth. And of course, doing something like the bitch queen indoctrination on a man is impossible as such, but somebody might have had the idea, well, then we'll just connect the bitch queens into their heads. Okay, and they might try this remote working thing. I do want to point out that, and this is very important, that's the point of what I'm trying to make here, the point I'm trying to make here. Those bitch queens that I got connected were limbo dwelling, as I said in the past, but they were actually ALE conform bitch queens. They were old school bitch queens. And again, all throughout the media, there's all kinds of people, celebrity people, politicians in the media, men, who behave like old school ALE conform bitch queens. And as I know for a fact that the bitch queen indoctrination and the bitch queen program originally does not at all work on males. It is not doable, technically, impossible, completely 100%. The only way to get them to behave like that is if they actually force connect, so to speak, an actual vintage ALE conformed bitch queen into their heads. And once more the question here is it the all new and improved bitch queens who are doing that, or is it somebody else who still has some of these old bitch queens in limbos? Because if it is the first, then as I explained in that video 3 weeks ago, the all new and improved bitch queens are doing something wrong, because if you want modern bitch queens, you shouldn't have gone all new and improved, okay? So really, that really also leads me to, more likely than not, suspect that it's not actually the all new and improved bitch queens who are doing it, but somebody else who has a couple of vintage, and those must have been in these limos for decades, bear that in mind, and disconnected from all the other actual bitch queens that changed and improved. Okay, you have to understand that these are vintage ALE conformed bitch queens, which the world hasn't seen since easily the late 60s. Okay, early 70s maybe, no later than that. No shit. Okay, mid 60s at the absolute latest. If in some remote parts of the world, okay? Which really means that these bitch queens must have been in their limbos for 40 years now. 40 years. ALE conformed vintage bitch queens who've been in limbos for 40 years for no other reason than to have them available these days anyhow. I don't know what the original reason was for putting them in the limbos, but these days, and the reason, the way they are being utilized is just to be connected into the minds of men, to have them behave like bitch queens, to try something like remote bitching, but not the all new and improved Amazonic bitching, delusional and all of their delusions of grandeur, of bitchy grandeur, but actually have them be original bitch queen, right? Bee queen style bitch queen. So that's another thing I wanted to point out to you. Well, there's several things. Namely, they must have been real vintage bitch queens who've been in limos for 40 years now, and that somebody is utilizing them to remote bitch men who otherwise could not ever behave like bitch queens, not even like the original ALE conformed bitch queen would have been like. Okay? So that is very important. There's important stuff in this video here. I want to point this out to you. Another little thing. I read on the news website there, Standard.at, Viennese newspaper website. I read today some shit about the Musk guy from Tesla and whatnot, and analysts of the Bank of America, who apparently are experts on the topic, I take it, how they are deluding about the matrix again. The interesting thing about that is that this whole matrix shit was completely low profile for ages and ages and ages. And it just stood at, there's a lot of shit on the media, again, especially coming from America, as in, you know, Robert De Niro, Arnold Schwarzenegger, what they do, what they behave, all these celebrities, also politicians, how Donald Trump is puppeteered to make Hillary look good, and so on and so forth. It's just grotesque what's coming out of America. It's inhumane as inhumane can. It is unmanly. I consider all U.S. American males to be traitors to all mankind, as in for a change with a dick, okay, for allowing that, but that's another story. But back to the Matrix shit. I figured, why do they bring the Matrix shit now? I mean, you know, to be fair, they also brought their Mars shit again. And let me tell you, people, no, you don't have a colony on Mars or on other planets or even on the moon or somewhere. You do not. Nor are you going to have anytime soon. There. Nor is there Jesus on Mars or are there Martians on Mars. None of that. But why the Matrix shit? Till I figured there is an outside, all right, but there is a chance that my Trubshaw's theorem actually, either by someone completely idiotic, was misinterpreted, or by someone else, almost completely idiotic, was tried to be hijacked into representing fodder for their crazy we're living in the Matrix kind of delusion. Right? Namely, the fact that, see, people don't understand the Trubshaw's theorem. Trubshaw's theorem simply, see, what Trubshaw's theorem about is the universe not having an infinite data width. That realization is what Trubshaw's theorem is about. Now, the universe not having an infinite data width, an infinitely wide data width, in itself is an utter banality. There's nothing to write home about. It's just, you know, okay, that's the universe. You know, and it is duh, because it cannot have an infinite data width. Mankind figuring that is not banal. Okay, I do want to point it out. There's the reason why Trubshaw's theorem is quite something is because mankind, namely me, figured it. Right? No, not really that that's the way it is. That's just, you know, that's the way the universe is. But we finally figured it. But the concept behind that, the realization, what that actually means, really lends itself to be hijacked into utter non-scientific crap, into pseudo-philosophy. There's also pseudo-philosophy, see? It's not just motard philosophy, there's even pseudo-philosophy. That's the insane world that we live in. And basically, I just want to say that I can't rule out that Trubshaw's theorem was actually utilized to tip off some of these idiots again on their Matrix shit. Okay, I want to point out, there ain't no Matrix shit. We ain't living in no Matrix shit. No one. And Trubshaw's theorem is no proof for the Matrix shit, nor does it have anything to do with the Matrix shit. Okay? Thank you. There. And finally, when I did the European flag, the last video was about the European, actually 2 videos back was about the European flag. I also thought about all other flags and whatnot, and I returned to the American flag thinking about it, and that's when I realized that, as we've established, the USA was betrayed ages and ages and ages ago. Decades and decades and decades and decades and decades and decades ago. Pre-World War II was when the US was betrayed, namely with the aid of inhumane technologies. And even prior to that, pre the inhumane technologies, they might have already betrayed the US of A. Namely to that extent that there is no USA anymore, and hasn't been in ages. Namely in the sense that it is only kept up as the public face for the world, really. But the secret fuckers who know what's going on know that they have split up that territory, say North America. Because let's take Canada in there, what I know as Canada. Which means that there is really all these other political entities on the North American continent, which are called whatever, I have no idea, I don't claim to know, I don't give a rat's ass, political entities, and that the US of A really doesn't exist anymore, not in the real reality, as some of the delusionists might think of it. The reason I bring this up is because I hereby, as Freiland, issue a new declaration of war. I have issued a declaration of war against the USA in the past, and already way back in the, by the way, World document, which is like, oh, that's a long time ago now. And I was kind of surprised that nothing happened, because I thought, you know, from all the media I catch, I thought it suffices that you wear a fucking beard of some length to get yourself shot dead. Apparently here I am declaring war on the US fucking of A, and no one bloody cares. So let me be precise. Should the secret fuckers over there in North America have long since done away with the US of A officially, Thailand hereby declares all-out war on each and all political entities slash countries slash realms slash whatever the fuck you call it, political entities on the soil of North America, and that includes any territories that might pertain to that which are not geologically and geologically and geographically on North America. Because, for instance, Hawaii is not North America, and so on and so forth. And when we're on that topic, the moon is not fucking American just because you put a fucking American flag into it, and that holds true for your delusional Martian settlement and whatever. Okay, I want to point this out to you. All political entities on the North American continent, Thailand declares war, all-out universal war against you. And as I am not just Prime Minister of Thailand, but also Prime Protector of mankind, of course, but in particular here, reshaper of Europe and really administrator of Europe at the current time, I actually have all of the European Confederation, and you should know by now what all that entails and includes, namely everything that is Europe. I have all the European Confederation declare all-out absolute war of destruction and annihilation onto all political entities on the North American continent. All of them. There. If you don't want to be annihilated, North America, get rid of your fucking Fex Mundi. And start with the fucking bitch queens. Because what's currently going on is really asking for it. Okay? Do away with your bitch queens first, then do away with the other Fex Mundi. It is all very earthly technology from the present day. Actually, some of it is like 70, 80 fucking years old, technological progress-wise. It's not ancient technology from ancient Egypt. It's not from the future. It's not from Mars. It's not from other dimensions. It is earthly technology. There ain't no fucking God. There ain't no fucking aliens. There ain't no fucking rebirth. There ain't no fucking sci-fi shit. Get rid of your fucking Fex Mundi on the fucking North American continent. You have just been declared war. Get that into your fucking heads. Thank you.